finally I can focus on the what ifs, people. Finally. Let's get into it. So, with them all doing this, they'd chase down Naruto and basically learn from the scrolling ceiling as well. All of them learning different jutsus. They'd all actually learn the Shadow Clone Jutsu, but Sasuke would say that it's too inefficient for him. He knows how to make normal clones anyway, so he doesn't really need it. Of course, I'm like, because he doesn't know how to make that good of clones. So he learns the Shadow Clone. He says then it could make pretty good combo attacks. So then Mizuki would find them and throw a giant shuriken at them. Christian says, Sharingan! And with such slow motion, it's in slow motion, he catches the shuriken going, ah! He goes, what the? He goes, then Christian rams it up, cranks it up, going, ah! And throwing the shuriken right back at Mizuki. He dodged out of the way. Christian says, ah! He body flickers over and stabs Mizuki, going, huh. He goes, Pugh. Then Sasuke would go from above, stabbing Mizuki in the head, going, huh. Naruto would go, Shadow Clone Jutsu! And the Shadow Clones would go beat the crap out of Mizuki even more, and Naruto would say, where's Mizuki? He says, dead on the floor. Christian says, Kadon, Gokakyu! Getting rid of Mizuki's body. He says, now it smells disgusting, but then he goes, does anyone here know water style? Iruka says, water style! Water, Great Basin! And giant water comes and freezes it off. And also it's a signal for them to go away. Mizuki is nothing but ashes, but now all his ashes have disappeared. Christian says, ew, this part of the forest stinks. He goes, sweet style, better smell jutsu. He goes, putting both of his hands out. I'm kidding. He just uses chakra to clear up all the smell. I don't know what chakra smells like. I don't want to know. So, basically when they get back, Naruto would pass because he would been enough help into Mizuki's attack. Then they'd go back to school. He says, they've built a tiny bit of a relationship with Naruto, a friendship with Naruto going, and they all sit together. Then Sakura, would sit above Christian because she knows that she wants to respect his wishes, and he does not want to be sit right next to. Out of nowhere, when Naruto's sitting down, Sakura pushes him to the ground, saying, "Move it, demon!" Christian says, "Get out of here, trash can." He laughs, going, he says, darn you, and goes for a punch. He says, Christian, with one finger, pushes the finger up. She goes, huh? And actually falls back. He says, nice try. Then he goes, Sasuke, I want to play a prank on her. He goes, what's the prank? He says, I'm going to put her in a genjutsu where you love her. He goes, alright, I already don't like it, but you can do it because it's not actual me. Christian says, hey Sakura. She goes, what? He says, do you want Sasuke to love you? She goes, definitely, he says. Puts her in a genjutsu for the entire class. And it's her, and in the genjutsu world it's her kissing Sasuke. Says, what did you do? Christian says, I put her in a genjutsu where Sasuke loves her. He says, this is gonna be fun. So, then, Team 7. He says, this is a pretty big team. He says, Team 7, Naruto Uzumaki, Sasuke Uchiha. Christian snaps her out of the group, snaps Sakura out of it, and she says, why? What the hell? I was kissing Sasuke. Christian says, you're on the same team as Naruto. She goes, why that demon? Naruto starts to get a little sad. He says, I don't know, what is it? He says, everyone should feel bad for me for being on a team with the demon. Christian says, I feel pretty bad. Sasuke goes, Christian? He goes, I feel really bad for Naruto. He has to be on a team with a pink trash can. She goes, darn you, goes for a punch, and hits him, but then just phases through him. and phases through Sasuke and phases through the wall. Then she phases under the ground going, and then she's falling under the world. She goes, ah! He says, she's in a genjutsu again. I just made her fall through the earth. He goes, this is fun, putting Sakura in genjutsus because she's annoying. Then he releases it. She says, this is the one time I'm going to thank you because you saved me from dying, basically. He says, you can't die in a genjutsu unless someone stabs you. He says, or you're incinerated before the genjutsu is released. He says, also, yeah, whatever. He says, alright, he says, after that, he says, Sasuke Uchiha. Sakura goes, yeah! Naruto goes, yes! She says, shut up, demon, Sasuke's all mine. He says, I don't like him, I like him as a friend. Are you dumb? Are you dumbfounded? He says, he says, also, there's 3 more members on Team 7. Next, Shikamaru Nara. She goes, Sakura goes, not the lazy one. He says, next, Ino Yamanaka. He goes, not her, not Ino, pig. She says, oh yeah? He says, she's just gonna steal Sasuke from me. Ino says, I don't like Sasuke anymore. He mean to me. And also, he's gonna reject you, Sakura. Sakura goes, no, he's not. And like trying to fake cry so then like she'll get in trouble. She goes, Iruka yells, Ino, you're making Sakura cry. Christian says, she's capping. He says, but then Sakura puts some paint on her face and puts like a purple eye and some red on her. She says, Sensei, she beat me up. Ino, prick. And then he gets put in a genjutsu, reverse time, and sees what actually happened. He says, Sensei, I got one thing to say and one thing only. He goes, bop, slapping Sakura right in the face. He says, why is the blood on my hand then? Sakura. He goes, he licks his finger, he says, I didn't know that tastes like ketchup. I didn't know blood tastes like ketchup. He says, okay, 1, that's disgusting. Why would you even put ketchup on yourself? 3, how'd you even get the purple stuff? How'd you even do that fast? 3, you ain't gonna get nothing. He says, oh yeah, the last member is Christian Uchiha. Ino goes, yes! He says, Christian says, I'm gonna go talk to Shikamaru now. Goodbye. And says, hi Shikamaru, I guess we're on the same team. He goes, Shikamaru's kinda sad, because he's not on the same team as his best friend Choji. Christian says, I can make arrangements. He snaps his fingers, and instantly on the thing he says, oh, Choji Akimichi is also on the team. So he goes, how'd you do that? He says, I know how to. He says, I have my ways. He says, just to make all my teammates happy. Except for the fact that there's going to be he says, be warned, Shikamaru, and gives him headphones saying, be warned. He says, why do I need headphones? He says, 1, because they're awesome. 2, you're going to hear a lot of bickering. And I mean a lot. He says, I am about to die. I'm going to die in this group. Because of how much chakra I'm going to use up in genjutsus on both of them. I'm going to have to put them both in so many genjutsus where they stop arguing. Where they both say sorry. Ah, God, my Uchiha eyes are going to bleed. He says, ugh. He goes, Sasuke says, are you okay? He goes, no. I'm going to have to use so many genjutsus on those 2. He says, just let them resolve it on their own. He says, yeah, that's going to be a problem. They're not going to. I already gave Shikamaru soundproof headphones. He says, you too, Sasuke. He goes, already they start bickering. Until the worst happens. The kiss happens. She goes, Naruto, you are so dead. Christian says, see, Sasuke, I told you I'm going to have to use up all my chakra for this goddamn team. He goes, puts them all in a genjutsu where they think that they beat him up. He goes, oh. He goes, thank you, God, Lord. He goes, finally, I'm done. He said, when he returns them out of the genjutsu, they say, why aren't you beat up, Naruto? And they all start to go for him. Christian goes, get him. I don't care anymore. Naruto just gets beat the crap out of. So, moving up to the rooftop. and they'd get to the top of the roof. They'd meet actually Kakashi, and then he'd say, get to the roof. He says, you, Blondie, you first. He says, I'm Naruto Uzumaki. I like hanging out with my friends, eating ramen. Dislikes are, but basically every girl in the class, because of how annoying they are. And I don't like also how long it takes for ramen to cook. Christian says in his head, this guy's addicted to ramen. He says, now you, Pinky. He says, or I should say, pink trash. He says in his head, pink trash can. She says, I'm Sakura Haruno. She says, what I like. She turns to Sasuke. She says, for my future, I look to Sasuke. She looks to Sasuke. She says, what I hate is Naru. And then she gets a kunai pointed to her throat. He says, say one. You want to finish that sentence, Sakura? She goes, Daru, so, who's another person? He says, you're gonna say toe, so there's no point in hiding it. Sasuke says, I want revenge and nothing else. Christian says, super edgy. Sasuke goes, what did you say? He says, well, someone showed their true colors. He goes, and then they both go, I'll destroy you. Christian goes, next he says, alright you, light blondie. She goes, I'm Ino Yamanaka. What I like is, and then she looks at your boy Tobio, aka Christian. Then she says, future, and her dislikes are Sakura. Also Sakura says, oh yes, I also hate Ino. He goes, she says, I also like hanging out with my friends and defending the innocent. He says, which I'm not gonna do for. She says, also, my future is to become a great kunoichi. He says, at least it's not too fangirly. Christian wipes his head, going, thank you God, it's not another fangirl. He goes, next it's Shikamaru. Shikamaru says, I'm Shikamaru Nara. I like playing shogi. I'm very, very lazy. Naru, I like to hang out with my friend Choji and basically all my other friends. He says, my dreams for the future, I don't really have any dreams for the future yet. And my dislikes are annoying people. Christian goes, Sakura. All of them go, except for Sakura going, Sakura. Then Sakura goes, you know. Christian goes, wow. I don't think, is that supposed to offend us? She goes, well, was that insult supposed to offend me? He says, yeah, and it did. He says, obviously if you did a comeback, it definitely insulted you. And it wasn't even a comeback. It was a weak one. He says, now you. Choji, he says, you, chubby dude. He says, I'm Choji Akimichi, I like potato chips, hanging out with my friends, having fun. My dislikes are boring people. My future is to become a chef. A ninja chef. He goes, ooh, that's the first good dream we've heard of, besides Naruto who wants to become a Hokage and Sasuke who wants to have all that willy-nilly revenge. Christian says the exact same thing for Sasuke for the plans for the future, and also dreams, aka, he says, what I like is having fun. He says, I love training with the squirrels that Itachi gave us, and also our pet crow. He says, I also like my pet crow. He says, he whistles going, wee-wee. Everyone says, what the heck? Sakura says, what are you doing, you idiot? Out of she said, Ino says, don't talk to him like that. Out of nowhere, a crow with two monkey kill Sharingan, fly onto his finger. He says, good Koto. He says, this is Koto. His full name is Koto Matsukami. And rubs his head. Sakura says, that's a long name. He says, yeah, well, that's basically the name of the Genjutsu. It's the name of an Uchiha Genjutsu. And rubs his head. He says, this is my bird. Very nice. He says, he hates annoying people, and he also hates the color pink. He goes, Sakura runs away going, ah, while the crow is pecking her going, He says, yeah, he hates the color pink. Literally, like, I'm not even saying that so he'll attack her. I'm literally saying, like, the crow hates pink. He goes, and then the crow flies back home. He goes, that's me and Sasuke's pet crow. Really good. He says, okay. The third Hokage makes some good arrangements. He says, he says, we're going to be doing a graduation exam. He goes, okay. I mean, we're gonna do a bell test. He says, you guys can go home and don't eat, or you'll puke. Christian says, tonight or tomorrow? He says, tomorrow. He goes, gotcha. Christian and Sasuke go home into their room, and then they get a knock at the door. Christian opens it, and it's an Anbu Black Ops member. And the Hokage, and Hiruzen right behind him. He says, what can I do for you, Lord Hokage? And this fine night, he says, well, since you two are the last Uchiha, and I realize that you guys don't really have a good apartment, and you guys are the last of the clan besides Itachi and Obiso. He goes, I think you guys deserve a better house. He says, pack your stuff by tomorrow and the house will be ready. He says, how are you even going to create this? He says, this is Tenzo. Tenzo has wood style and create a house. He goes, Christian says, can I have a demonstration? He goes, wood style, wood dome, and traps him in a prison. He goes, really? Just, the sheer force of his pressure breaks through it and goes, God damn it, you made splinters go all over my house. He says, Sasuke, we have some cleaning to do. He says, what happened now? He says, alright, we'll be ready tomorrow. He goes, okay. He says, why is there wood splinters everywhere? He says, Lord Hokage and an Anbu member came, and they're building us a new house since we're the last Uchiha, and we kinda need it. It has tons of things, and also, he put me in a wood barrier, and I asked him for a demonstration, and I broke it open with sheer force. So after cleaning it all, literally all, like there's not even a speck left, he says, good. He says, now we have to pack our things. He says, what time's the bell test? He says, Sasuke says, I think it's about 6 o'clock. Kakashi says he's gonna get there. Christian says, well, we're screwed because we have to move there at like 4. And that's gonna take like 2 hours for us to move all our stuff in. He says, Sasuke says, it's gonna take us 2 hours. Christian goes, not if. He goes, Kagebushi! Creating clones, and they all get the stuff. Sasuke goes, Shadow Clone Jutsu! Also creating clones, and they all grab all their stuff getting ready. He says, then Christian sends in one more clone saying, go alert Lord Hokage that we're already ready to move in. Tendo just finished it, and he says that they're ready to move in. Christian's body flickers over, and they're already there. He says, all the clones and all them are moving the stuff in. He says, good luck, you two, in your new home. He says, thank you, Lord Hokage, and they move in. Christian says, Sasuke, I can get used to this. He says, Christian goes, hallelujah, hallelujah. He goes, oh my god. Sasuke rushes and says, what's wrong? He says, nothing's wrong. Everything is right. He says, you don't mean they have. He says, I do. They go, yes, they have pants. We've needed these for so long. He says, now we can eat eggs. He says, eggs and rice. They go, yes. People from the Leaf Village can hear it. They say, shut up. He goes, shut up. Christian goes, Akira said shut up, and pulls out slippers and goes, ah, beep, beep. They have a nice day. Christian says, Sasuke, we forgot about somebody. He says, we forgot about Kodo. He body flickers over and grabs Kodo and says, time to go, little guy, and body flickers over. He says, here's your new bird cage. He goes, and he says, so much more spacious in here. I may stay a while. Christian says, you can talk? He goes, Rah! He goes, wow, I think I might be hallucinating. He body flickers to Naruto's house, knocking on the door. He says, asking him if he wants to come and visit our new house. Naruto says, you guys have the money for that? He says, no, Lord Hokage built us a bigger house. He says, oh, I'm sad now. I don't get a bigger house. Christian says, not if I know how to do it. He says, Sharingan. And he says, I actually copied the jutsu. He does all the handstand and builds up a lot of chakra and builds a house right across from them. and says, you now live there. He says, Christian body flickers, grabbing all the Naruto stuff and body flickering and saying, you may place it. Naruto goes, Shadow Clone Jutsu! And they place all of it around. They go, yay! Christian knows one Jutsu Jutsu, but then the next day he just forgets it. They go, they all have a nice dinner, with Christian cooking the best. He goes, so Naruto says, does he always do this? He says, no, because he can't. Because we don't have a lot of good pots and pans at home. Because, well, yeah, he says, who wants eggs and... He says, who wants eggs and rice? He goes, we do. He mixes it up going, brrr, and says, here you go. Did you eggs and rice? Soup. Naruto says, soup? There's no broth. He says, exactly. I said, soup. Doesn't mean actual soup. He says, this is just egg with ramen. He says, how about this? And says, would you like it cooked? He says, when he looks at the stove and turns on the fire, he goes, oh, you think you can outdo me? He goes, wait a minute. He goes, yes! There's also fire coming out of it, so we don't have to use fire jutsu in case we run out of gas for the fire. I'll be right back. Back to this. Christian says, Naruto, why don't you sleep over for a little bit? Why don't you sleep over? Because, well, we're all getting used to our houses, so why don't we just do that? He says, sure. And they all have a sleepover. They're all in different rooms, in their beds. At like 12 in the morning, Christian feels something touching his eye. He goes, what the? He sees an Ambu, 3 Ambu in his room. He goes, ah! And kicks one back, hitting the ground. Sasuke would jump in. Sasuke would say, what the heck? Opening it up, being punched back. He goes, ah! Christian kicks the Ambu member in the face. Then Naruto would come from downstairs going, Shadow Clone Jutsu! And the Shadow Clones would rush up and beat him up. He says, Anbu? He says, how did they even get in here? Then they kill all the Anbu Black Ops members and then throwing them out the house going, yay! He says, Christian looks in his room and pulls up and sees a little latch and pulls it up. He says, what the? Naruto, Sasuke, get in here! They flick on the light and then they go down there. He says, what the? He says, wait a minute, I think I've seen this before. He says, he says, Christian body flickers him all to the Hokage's office saying, Lord, he goes to here, he's not there. So then they body flicker, they say, excuse me, Lord Hokage? Hiruzen says, boys, it's 12 o'clock, what is it? They say, there's some secret bunker in our house that leads to the foundation. And we were just attacked by 3 Ambu. And one of them went for my eyes. So I'm pretty sure it's part of Danzo, because I'm pretty sure... He says... They go into their house, and he says, look! And pulls it up. He says, what the? This wasn't there when Tenzo installed it. He says, duh! Tenzo and says, whose house is right there? Christian says, that's Naruto's. I built it, because I copied his jutsu. But I forgot it. He goes, they go down there to explore. And they get in there. They get into Danzo's main office. He says, Danzo, what is the meaning of this? He says, Hiruzen, what are you doing here? He says, I found in these young boys' house that there is a bunker that leads to your foundation, and 3 Anbu literally and attacked them and went for their eyes. What is the meaning of this? He goes, nothing. Look, he says, nothing, Hiruzen. What's the problem? He goes, my problem is that 3 of our shinobi, and 2 of them are the last Uchiha, almost got their eyes pulled up because your Abu obviously want their Sharingan, even they aren't even fully developed. He says, no, my Anbu would never do that. Are you sure they weren't hallucinating? Christian says, Maybe, he says in his head, maybe they were hallucinating. Christian says, nope, Sasuke felt the force of that kick that he got from. He says, maybe it was Naruto's clone or something. He says, Naruto doesn't sleep clone. He says, let's check the security camera footage. They check the security camera. He looks at Danzo's computer and says, he picks Danzo up by his shirt saying, you have some explaining to do. Anbu run into the room and say, put down Lord Danzo or we'll kill him, and puts a kunai in Naruto's throat. I don't know where that Anbu member feels the jab to the stomach. It's Naruto elbowing him. He goes, then grabs the kunai from him and stabs him. He goes, Sasuke would go, Katon, Kowakakyu. Christian kicking around Danzo like a ragdoll saying, it was probably you who ordered Itachi to massacre the clan. Not this. He says, no. He says, no. Itachi did kill the clan. On purpose. Because he wanted to test his power. He goes, then why is there security cameras of our house in there? He body flickers Danzo over there so he can't get over, and body flickers Hiruzen over there saying, look, he's got cameras of our house. And look. That's when the Anbu attack. He says, Danzo, you have some major explaining to do. Danzo says, run! And all of his Anbu run out. Christian body flickers in front of them, stabbing one of them, going, he says, I'll offer you great power to defeat Itachi. Christian says, I don't trust you. And then Danzo would punch him in the face, actually doing a lot. He'd fall to the ground and goes, damn it! He'd go for his eye, but then Christian would punch him in the stomach, going, he'd go, oh! Then he kicks Danzo back. Then Christian would body flicker Hokage back. He says, Naruto, I think it's time we seal it up. They seal it up, and then also Christian says, they won't be getting past this. He goes, Earth style, mud barrier. Actually, no, the third Hokage goes, Earth style, mud barrier. Putting huge amounts of mud, that actually it's cement, then it solids up, going, so nothing can break through it. So then the boys will be safe. And they're gonna have maximum security on it. And they go back to sleep, and about 4 hours later they wake up. They're all so tired. Christian says, I'll get breakfast ready. Naruto says, Kakashi-sensei said for us to not eat. Christian says, then eat a granola bar, I don't care, and throws it into their mouths. They go, and they say, let's just walk slowly so the food digests easily, so at least we had something. And then they head over to the trading area, being the first ones there. Christian goes, oh, Sasuke, I need you with something. Please just don't shoot a fireball at all. That's gonna make me even more tired. Christian says, oh, god dang it. I'm not actually tired in my life, that's just my character. Ino and Sakura are racing each other, and when they're racing, Christian is like sleepwalking and gets knocked over by the two. He goes, ah, and goes into the Sharingan, fire style fireball jutsu, hitting them both with the fireball. They go, oh, why did you do that? He says, why am I in the air? Huh? You both knocked me up in the air. He goes and lands on his feet going, oh, well, that woke me up. And Sasuke also got woken up by the heat. He goes, oh, and they all go and start to sleep for a while. Then Choji and Shikamaru arrive saying, is this a sleeping fest? I'm down. They're sleeping, they're all sleeping. Christian says, good thing I brought this, because I know Kakashi. He says, you guys want to tell some stories? They all say, yeah. Christian pulls something in his pocket and presses a button, and then his tent turns gigantic, and they can all fit on it. They all go in it. Christian says, all three of us have a story for what happened to us at 12 a.m., and it's literally true. We had to get Lord Hokage for this. They go, it must be serious if the Hokage was involved. So Christian says, so I was sleeping. Then I feel something touch my eye. I wake up and it's an Anbu member trying to grab my eye. They go, I kick him away, and then Sasuke and Naruto hear it. They rush up the stairs with Naruto's clones too coming up, and they beat him up. Then we go wake up the third Hokage and take him to there. And there's a secret lair under our house. connects to the foundation. Danzo actually had cameras, so I destroyed his computer. Also, with Hiruzen finding out, Danzo was kicked out of the village along with his Anbu. The third Hokage sealed up the entrance and the exit, so now anyone who's in there is stuck there forever and will starve to death. He goes, wow. He says, Sasuke-kun, is that true? He goes, that's very true. That literally happened to us. He goes, wow, you don't even believe me? Ino says, I believe you. He goes, thank you. Shikamaru says, yeah, I believe that. I mean, Danzo is the type of guy to do that. And Kakashi opens up and says, hey guys, what did I miss? And when he's in there, they're actually all sleeping, because I was like, and a couple hours later, he says, Kakashi with the megaphone says, get up! But none of them wake up. He says, what the? Then they all poof. He says, then he's about to get kicked in the face, but then he grabs Naruto's foot. He says, trying to surprise attack me, huh? That was good. But I didn't say start, and throws Naruto back. Christian catches him saying, nice. He says, that was a good shot. He says, you guys are pretty tactical. He says, and you guys will have to get these 2 bells. Christian says, I already know what he wants us to do. So they all say, but there's only 2 bells and there's 6 of us. He says, exactly. Christian and Sasuke get it, and then they all jump in the forest, except for Naruto. Naruto would go and try and fight Kakashi with a little bit of, this is a tiny bit of a stronger Naruto. It's always funny, because the Naruto who's strong at the beginning, is weaker at the end. If you think about it. Naruto and Sasuke would still be injured in Ashura's reincarnation, just gotta say that. Christian wouldn't be any reincarnation, but he'd be strong on his own. He goes, God dang it. So basically, Naruto would get bodied, and when Naruto goes into the water, he feels someone drag him in. It's Christian. He uses the dirt to block the water. And then he says, alright Naruto, we're underground right now, we're below Kakashi. What we're gonna do is I'm gonna pull him under, then you're not gonna snatch the bells. We need to use full teamwork. Sakura crushes the rumble and says, that useless piece of trash. She says, see, I'm not useless. He says, you ruined our plan, you idiot. Baka, baka, baka. They all yell, baka, at Sakura. I was just trying to help. He says, well, you didn't help, you made things worse. Christian jumps to the left, and they go for his bells. He dodges and kicks Christian in the face. He goes, damn it. Ino tries to mind transfer. He says, too slow. Christian goes, Shikamaru will try and get him with the shadow, but it wouldn't work, which leads into him getting kicked in the ribs by Sasuke. He goes, Sakura says, yeah, Sasuke! Alright, people,